It's now 6 p.m., actually it's 6:01. So the Planning Commission of the City of Lancaster, please come to order. Tonight, our invocation was to be offered by Pastor Tim Lee of Life Church. Is he here? Doesn't look like it. So Vice Chair Hall will offer the invocation. And then Commissioner Harvey will lead us in a pledge. So if you please stand.
Bow your head and pray to the Lord for blessings on our city, staff, this commission, so we make the right decisions. We thank you for the rain you've given us, but please in a little more moderation. We ask that you look out after the people of Israel as they're fighting for their lives. And we also pray that one of our former commissioners, Raj Mali, will be a stellar performer on Lancaster City Council. I pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us as we honor our nation's flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have the roll call, please.
Commissioners Diana Cook,
Present.
Miguel Coronado,
Present.
Cassandra Harvey,
Present.
Fabian Teresiano,
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Hall,
Here.
Chairman James Vose.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. As was mentioned previously, our colleague Raj Mali was appointed to the City Council last Tuesday evening. So we have currently one vacancy on the council. I understand the mayor and the City Council will be considering an appointment. Not sure exactly when, but as long as we have 4 members, we can function. So, and we have 6 tonight. Everybody's here. Just to give you folks a little background how this operates if you haven't been here before. The commission meets on the Monday prior to this meeting in an open session. However, it's a staff briefing. We hear what staff has to say about the particular agenda items. Individually, we may ask questions with staff. However, we don't engage in any discussion or deliberation or vote. So you may find that when an item comes up, we may not ask for a staff report if there's no one speaking for or against the project, and we typically then will move the matter either forward as an approval or a denial. So other items, when folks wish to offer testimony, you're to fill out a speaker's card and share it with the Assistant City Attorney, and when that item comes up, we'll call upon you to offer your testimony and whatever you'd like to say about it. Typically, you'd be limited to 3 minutes each at that time. We also give early speakers an opportunity to address us now if you're not able to stay tonight. And typically, Mr. Ludicky, do you have any early speakers?
None that have indicated, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then. Just for the record, tonight we've received various correspondence. Our agenda was amended on item 5 under request. There was typographical error indicating a 5 megawatt photovoltaic projects, actually 60. We have received modifications since the agenda was posted on item number 5, CUP 1509 on page 5, and CUP 1509. We also received a copy of an aerial photograph. Additionally, we received written communications on item 2C, 2E, 2F, 3, 4, and 5. Those are uncontested letters indicating that the applicant agrees with the staff recommendation. We also received tonight a letter and attachments from Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District dated October 16th, which was Friday. And we just received it tonight. So when this item comes up, either we'll take a recess and consider what it has to say, or we won't. Just depends on the pleasure of the commission. All right then. First item is our first action item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 21st, 2015. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of September 21, 2015.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Please vote. I think I need to re-vote. I hit the wrong number, I think. No, it turned out all right.
If you don't mind, we can do it again. We missed Commissioner Coronado.
Motion.
Oh, we're going to re-vote? There we go.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. First item before us tonight are new public hearings. There are 6 of them for one-year extensions on tentative track maps. So without objection, the first public hearing, item number 2 on our agenda, tentative track map number 53229. You have speakers on this? Do you have speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. May we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Chairman Vos, Commissioners. We have a request for a one-year time extension for vesting tentative track map 53229. This is a subdivision for 1,594 single-family lots, a school lot, a park lot in the specific plan zone. The project site, this is on 483 acres, bounded by Avenue K, 62nd Street West, Avenue L, and 70th Street West. This project was originally approved on October 17, 2005. On December 17, 2007, the Planning Commission approved a one-year time extension. Since 2008, the state of California has granted 4 automatic time extensions, carrying it to 2015. This request is the second of 3 time extensions that's available for this map. Staff is aware that there is an active submittal for this project site. The northern half of this project site, we do have a submittal for a specific plan and tentative track map. We are also in discussions with an applicant for the development of the southern half of this project site. Given the proposed submittals for this location, staff is recommending approval for this time extension with some modified conditions. And this concludes staff's report. Welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Am I correct that we did not receive a uncontested letter on this?
We did not receive
All right, thank you. Speakers, Mr. Ludicky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representing, I believe, the applicant would be Jim Powers.
All right. while Mr. Powers is joining us, I'll mention to the folks, one thing I forgot to mention was that when the applicants have an opportunity to address the commission, at the deference of the commission, they're given a sufficient time to inform us of their position. They're not limited to time unless we choose to limit them. Mr. Powers, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Jim Powers, and I'm here representing Royal Investors Group and CV Communities. CV Communities will be doing the north half of this property. They're in that process currently. And on the south half below K8, Royal Investors Group is working with staff currently, and we'll be submitting our specific plan application here within the next couple of weeks. So, and basically, I'm just here to say that we're in agreement with the conditions, the new conditions, and if any of the members have questions, we're here to answer those questions. It's been very good working with staff on
Very good, thank you.
changes. So,
Very good, thank you. There may be some questions. Anyone have any questions of the applicant? Vice Chair Hall?
Do you think that you'll be able to start the project before, or will we have to visit this for another extension?
I would say going through the process that it would probably take at least this year and possibly a little bit of the next extension, so we could be revisiting this. But we're moving forward, and I know that CV is, I think, submitted their application, and they have, the city has gone out with the RFP. I think you may have even hired the EIR consultant, so things are moving forward. So,
What does it cost the investors or the developer to attend a meeting like this?
gosh, I haven't broken that down, but I know that there are two people here from CV Communities and two of us here from Royal Investors Group. Royal Investors is in Encino, and CV Communities is in Orange County in the Irvine area. So we came up just for the day today, and we do preparation to get ready for the meeting. So I don't think it's anything drastic, but
So
if it could be extended for all 3 years or 2 years at one time, that would be great.
that was what I was getting towards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That would be wonderful.
There's a bit of a problem with that. The track map ordinance of our city only allows us to extend maps for 1 year to a maximum of 1 year. We can do it for less.
We'll go with the 1 year. Thank you.
I notice on the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors agenda, consent agenda for tomorrow, there's a water purchase agreement by Avante North or Avante whatever. I didn't write down the name, but it defined this particular property. Can you tell us about that? Or, can you tell us about that?
That would be for Avante North at this time, and it might be best to have. This is Mike White with CV Communities, and he can
Good evening.
answer that.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. And, it's no trouble to come up here. Actually, the drive is beautiful, and so we own a couple of properties up in the area, so we do it because we think this is a great area to develop. Like Jim had indicated, we own the property, let's say, I got to get my directions straight, north of K8, about 749 of the 1,500 lots. And we're going through the specific plan process. We've submitted the specific plan, the tentative map. The city has hired the environmental consultant, so we're well along to hopefully be before the Planning Commission sometime spring to early summer of next year. Hopefully sooner, but just trying to be a little bit optimistic too. The item on the Board of Supervisors agenda for Avante North, and that's what we call the property, or the entity that owns that, Avante North, is our water service assessment. And so that is a process because we're building more than 600 units, or 500 units, we have to go through that process to show that we have adequate water supply for the project, which we do. And so that process has to be done at the board, and then that'll set up a chain of events that actually provide the water for the project through District 40 and AVAC.
So Valley County Waterworks District 40 is
Yes.
your
Yes.
supplier?
And we've been working with District 40 and AVAC for some time, working on securing our water for the project, which we're fortunate that we actually have that and can actually bring development to the community. So,
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Anything more you care to offer? That's it? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, one indicating as favoring, two with no statement one way or the other, and one opposing. First
We'll be
speaker,
happy to listen to them all.
Geraldine Godey.
Evening, Miss Godey. Welcome.
Yes, I'm one of those Godies. Everybody says, "Are you one of those?" Yes. I have two
I
questions.
think you're the prettiest one, though.
I'm sorry?
I think you're the prettiest one.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm the only one left, practically. I have two questions. Oh, there they are in the back. One is the water. Where is it coming from?
According to the information that was just shared, it's an agreement with LA County Waterworks District Number 40 that the Board of Supervisors agenda indicates it's a consent approval item for tomorrow's agenda at the Board of Supervisors.
I hope they know where the water's coming from.
Coming from another source,
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. What source?
another source that they're purchasing it from. If you go on the county website and look at the Board of Supervisors agenda for tomorrow, there's a staff report in there that gives you the whole story. The reason I mentioned it is because I tend to follow the board agendas. However, not a lot of folks do.
All right, that's one question. My second question is, I see you have one school, and what is that, elementary, high school, middle school?
According to the staff report, it's it's a school site identified for the West Side Union School District.
So that would be, I assume, elementary? Well, if
I
it's west
don't
side,
know what the Board of Education, the West Side, will
That
be
would have to
doing,
be
but it's
elementary or middle,
identified as
or-
a site for the school district.
okay, and that's really, but the high school, that's an awful lot of people moving into an awful lot of homes, and our high school can't, if they build a high school, that would help. No?
I don't know. That's a question for the Antelope Valley Joint Union High School District.
You're right, but somebody better be thinking of building another high school, don't you think? And those are my two concerns. They don't intend to drill for water on that ranch, do they? No,
Nope.
no. Because I know there's no water under there, or we'd still be farming it. But there's no water there, so. Okay, and I appreciate you here listening to me, and I guess I'm done.
No, you've got more time.
That's all right. No, those are my two questions, is where's the water coming from and the schools, because, we can't, that's fine. If they're going to build another school to handle that, that eases my mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Godey. Have another speaker?
Donald Griffin.
Mr. Griffin, welcome.
Thank you. Well, one of my questions has been previously answered about the schools and the water, but I'm also concerned about taxes and also property value. I reside on 72nd and L in that division in the reserves. So single family homes I'm kind of concerned about because of the property value decrease it might oppose. On the other hand, I'm all for developing. I'm all for turning the corner and helping Lancaster grow into one of the elite cities here in SoCal. However, I think we need to do it right and cover every corner. A good example is the flooding over in my current area. It was signed off by the city engineer, and the reservoir, the drainage reservoir, just didn't work. It didn't work over in the area. So you had, what, 3 or 4 inch flooding? A lot more than that, 4 or 5 inches of water, but poor drainage system. So I think we just need to do it right, cover all angles, and make sure that we're building for the future and not just to build and cover ground and bring money and people in here. All right, so that's it for me.
Thank you. And the questions you raised, I'll ask our chief city business official to respond, particularly to the flood control issues. You know, when you get 3 or 4 inches of rain in a 20 or 30 minute period, I don't know of any engineered drainage system that can handle that, particularly when you have the bulk and burn and silt with it, right?
In fact, I went up and looked at the area earlier today, and there was some significant flooding that happened. From what I heard, it was a 1,000-year flood that happened in that area from what some of the other people were talking about. So quite unusual for what had taken place.
Do we have any historical records? Since the city's been incorporated, and as long as I've lived here, I've never seen anything like that concentrated at one time in one very limited location, basically west of 30th, and further west out into the Luna Valley, Lake Hughes area.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any. There may be some. I'm just not aware of it. The houses that were there, I think this was the first time they had flooded to that extent. They were in a lower area, which was adjacent to a drainage basin. So that plugged up and filled up. And
the inlets were clogged with silt and debris, right?
Yes.
Excuse me. That's not true. That's not the first time it happened. That's the first time it has happened to that extent. But there are some puddling and flooding around that cul-de-sac on 72nd, right as you turn in all the way down the cul-de-sac. Generally, when it rains, it puddles up in that area. I'm not sure about the rest of the development, but that's what I see from my street and my neighbors, and that's what we help each other out when there's flooding or when one is in need.
Mr. Griffin, what I'd suggest is that if you could give your name and contact information to Mr. Bennett, and I'm sure he'll get back to you and come visit with you and have a very direct conversation with you about your concerns and your neighbors.
Yeah. Well, I recognize his face. You came around when we were standing outside, so okay. you were there.
Our city and the Public Works Department has done an extraordinary job under circumstances that nobody really planned for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for you, for the staff. Environmental reviews for tracks and other developments, in this case, specific plans. Give us an outline, if you wouldn't mind, on how the specific plan process works for this particular subdivision. Can you do that, please?
A specific plan has its own set of development regulations. A lot of our urban residential developments, they're subject to a certain zoning. The most common zoning for our single-family residences is R7000. Minimum 7,000 square foot lot with with traditional development standards, a defined front yard, side yard, rear yard setbacks. A specific plan gives a developer an opportunity to propose something specific in accordance to what they want to do. And it could vary from our existing development standards. They can propose something that is unique, different, innovative, but they have to provide a document to us telling us what those development regulations are as well as any other street standards, design guidelines, street networks, something that lays out specifically what this project area is going to be. For this particular case, this specific plan accompanies a tentative track map that, again, warrants an EIR. 53229 had an EIR that was prepared for this project site. This project site, as mentioned, has been divided into two halves, the northern half and the southern half. And the northern half has submitted a specific plan and tentative track map with its own EIR. The southern half will likely come in with its own EIR. This time frame, roughly 9 to 12 months. This would give us enough time for the consultant to prepare an EIR for us to go through the review process. And so, as mentioned, we anticipate bringing the specific plans for this project site to you sometime in 2016.
All right, thank you. Engineering question. Typically, the flood control systems in our city are designed to meet the 50 and 100-year storm standard. Would that be correct, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I would say that's correct.
Do you know of any city in California that designs for the 1,000-year storm?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, thank you. The environmental reviews, you mentioned that they were done 10 years ago, roughly. So it's a brand new day, a brand new process, a
Yes.
complete environmental review. There'll be public opportunities for public to comment on the draft document. There'll be opportunities for public to comment on the final environmental document. There'll be opportunities for the public to comment on the specific plan and track maps when they're presented to this commission and properly noticed.
Yes.
All right, very good. Any other questions or comments from anybody? All right, we have other speakers.
Todd Bakken?
I didn't hear the last name, I'm sorry.
Bakken, I believe.
Bakken? Welcome, Mr. Bakken.
Well, Chairman, I'm also over off on Avenue L and 70th, and I was concerned with the building there. Are the streets going to be improved between L and 70th? Are they going to be single? Are they going to be a double going each way or whatnot? Because the traffic there is heavily in the morning and in the afternoon during the school times. Is that being provided with a project as well?
At this point, as was pointed out, the development plan for this project has yet to be submitted nor evaluated.
Okay.
Typically, however, there are a minimum street standard similar to what you might see on 70th south of Avenue L.
Okay. Also, my second question is the property taxes, is that going to go up for the people surrounded by that area, or are we going to be affected by that from the building?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is the residents' property taxes going to go up for this construction on this
Yeah, the county assessor assesses, makes the assessment of your property and mine and everybody else that owns real estate.
Yeah.
However, typically, new developments do not trigger an assessment increase.
Okay. I'm just concerned because I'm already paying $6,000, so.
Yeah, it's
for this area.
it's a fair question.
Yeah. Also, concerning with the drainage system, I know the neighbors down the street that I have contacted and helped them out throughout the week. There is 2 reservoirs that are down there, and the whole neighborhood there did contact the city to come out and clean those, and they've never been cleaned for as long as I lived there, and I've been there for 5 years. Luckily, today they did have somebody come out and clean them out, but this
I noticed that myself.
Yeah. This could have been prevented from the drainage if somebody had come out and cleaned those reservoirs, and that's why I'm concerned with this development. Is this development going to have a reservoir or a proper drainage or whatnot, or is the city going to come out and fix these before something like this happens again?
That's Mr. Bennett's department and the folks in Public Works, so you can bet that they're all over it.
Okay. Yeah, because this could have been prevented from flooding out, because it was full of debris and everything else.
Well, if we ever get the 1,000-year storm again,
Yeah.
we'll be down at the fire station getting sandbags, I think.
Absolutely. So, all right, thank you.
And another speaker?
Dennis Ray.
Evening.
Evening.
Welcome.
Well, my concern is with the water there. All the years since we lived up there, we always conserved our water. And now my rates are going up 40%, and I got to cut my usage. And District 40 tells me that you people here caused my rates to go up. Here we got to cut back 30, 35% in this up here in the valley up here. Where's the water going to come from? We got to stop building up here so the people up here can have water without our rates going sky high and doing all conserving.
Well, this commission and this city does not set water rates, nor do we.
Well, I know that, but they told me, when I
Nor-
talked to them there, they said to the city of
Nor do I
Lancaster.
always believe everything the Waterworks District tells folks. They're in the water supply business, and folks talk about long-range planning, and I'm not sure that they long-range plan very well. But in this particular case, assuming what's on the Board of Supervisors agenda, the proposed development has a source of water from some other jurisdiction.
Well, then my rate should go down. I shouldn't have to conserve water then.
Wouldn't that
See,
be
that's my
nice?
point. I mean,
Wouldn't
we
that
keep
be
doing
nice?
all this building, where are we going to get all this water from? If we get a shortage now.
Yeah, as far as I know, the water source is proposed to be secure, and it's a new source, not the existing source.
So you tell me my rates are going to go down, I won't have to conserve.
If they do, I'll be right there with you.
So I disagree with the new building.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
No, Mr. Chairman, but you might ask applicant if they want to respond.
I will. Commission, have any comments from anyone? No? All right. Opportunity to rebut. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of points I jotted down, quick notes here. Flood control, obviously a 1,000-year event is a big one, but our development north of K8 will be designed to the most current engineering standards and will be safe for the community and won't add any additional problems to the area. Plus, I think some of the debris that comes off some of the vacant properties is more of a problem, so we are addressing that by developing the property. I think the other good thing is we are not at the base of a large mountain. I mean, we are over a large area, but we're not at the base of a mountain. We do have another project, another city that's at the base of some quite large hills, and so debris basins and things like that are much more important. As far as property tax, we'll have no impact on anybody. The property tax, we pay our own way. The residents will pay their own fair share, and traditionally there's no reassessment. And Prop 218, or not, what's the one? Property tax one. Yes, that will prevent us from paying excessive taxes. As far as the water, we're in a very unique situation. Right now, to get a will serve letter anywhere in Allenville Valley is next to impossible. And if you can secure one, it's very costly. Several years ago, we had the good fortune to be offered a water source that was 100% reliable, actually better than the state water project water. It's not subject to decreases in use and capacity and how much water we get. That water is coming from Kern County, through a ranch up there, through an agreement through several water districts. We're actually paying to have that water brought down the aqueduct to AVAC. AVAC and District 40 will work with us to convert that water into water that will be used for the project. That water is what we're paying for. That water, our residents will be paying for that water, and that will be a good thing because it'll allow development to occur. Along with that, we'll be building the necessary infrastructure to move that water from the aqueduct to the reservoir to the project. There's a lot of those infrastructures already been installed, but there's certain aspects of it that have to be upgraded so that it can accept the water. And that is what's being approved at the Board of Supervisors, is the WSA that actually allows and recognizes that the water we're getting is secure and is actually better than the State Water Project. So we are not going to add to the drought. We're not taking from anybody else's usage. We're actually providing our own destiny with our own water. So I hope that answers all the questions. I think everything else seems to be pretty good in shape.
So you're not encumbering your project with the $10,000 per unit shirt-tail agreement that LA County Water Works District has offered developers?
No. That is a payment that developers make with AVAC. We're paying for the water in a different form. It's expensive. It may not be $10,000 a lot, but then we also have to work on a mechanism with the city, like we did with an adjacent city, and how we get the water and pay for the actual transfer of the water. There's wheeling charges that occur down the aqueduct, but that will be borne by the project. That will not be incurred by the city or by District 40 or by AVAC.
You're good. Anyone else?
Thank you very much.
There may be. When you come back, in whatever time frame it is, to talk about your project, maybe you could run some calculations just for the sake of information that you could share with us relative to your off-site improvements, not necessarily improvements of the track, but these major capital infrastructure improvements that you're talking about that basically will enhance and benefit the entire community ultimately.
Absolutely, and so since you asked the question, I can tell you right now, one of the things that we have learned from District 40 is there is no reservoir capacity really right now for the city and for the areas in this area, and we have to build I think it's nearly a 2.5 million gallon reservoir. Now that reservoir will benefit us, but it will also benefit the surrounding area by providing reservoir capacity. Upgrading lines, with some of these lines that we're having to put in are 30 inches in diameter. Those are big lines. Traditional subdivision maximum size lines that you need are 8 inches. So there's a lot of upsize infrastructure that has to be put in. Unfortunately, a lot of that infrastructure has to be put in very early in the process. So the capital outlay is great. We're not complaining about it. We certainly would like to balance it out a little bit, but we also understand that we have to provide the infrastructure before we can provide the homes. So there's not an additional burden on the city or the ratepayers, or everybody concerned. But we can talk more about that at that time. We'll have kind of formalized our discussions with District 40. We have that now, but it's old and outdated based on the tentative map, but we'll be able to shed more light on that in the future.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Any other speakers? Anything more from staff? All right, then. So without objection, the public hearing would be closed, and we'll consider a motion on this project.
I'll make the motion to recommend grant a one-year extension to October 17, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised condition list, attachment to resolution number 05-64.
Thank you. Have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next item is item 2B, which is tentative tract map number 61480. This is a new public hearing. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this tract map. And we did not receive an uncontested letter on this, so may we have a staff report?
This is a request for a time extension for TTM 61480. Applicant, again, is Roll Investors. This is located on 28.9 gross acres on the northeast corner of Lancaster Boulevard and future 35th Street East. This is a subdivision for 130 single-family lots in the R7000 zone. This project was originally approved on October 17, 2005. On November 19, 2007, the Commission granted a one-year extension. The automatic state extensions has carried it to 2015, and this is the second of 3 available time extension requests. Staff is recommending a continuance to the November Planning Commission meeting. We have been in discussion with the applicant on a modification to the design of the map. Due to the time that's needed to have these discussions and to come up with a redesign, we're asking for the 30-day continuance. And this concludes staff's report.
Is this project tied to the project to the east that we heard last month and continued?
Yes, this is located somewhat, a little bit to the west of the other tract that is closer to 40th Street East.
All right, thank you. Any comments? Questions?
I think it almost speaks for itself, the continuing to next month, so I think
Do
we
we have
should
speakers
entertain
on
it.
that? We do not. Okay,
No
very good. All right, then. So no further objections to close the public hearing, and let's consider a motion on the request for
Continue the public hearing.
continue.
Okay, I move that we continue the public hearing to the November 16th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting.
Actually, I should leave the public hearing open because we are continuing it, right? So we didn't. So I did not close the public hearing. We leave it open.
Leave it open, yes.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Say that again, would you?
Would you like for me to make another motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So I move that we continue the public hearing to the November 16th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Have a second, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Further questions or comment? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next new public hearing is on tentative tract map number 61977. So without objection, the public hearing is open. Do we have speakers on this?
No speakers on this one, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Do anyone care to hear the staff report? No? All right, then. We'll close the public hearing and consider a motion.
I move that we grant a one-year extension to the October 17th, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list attachment to resolution number 05-70.
Thank you.
I'll
Have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Anything further from the members? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right, the next item, excuse me. Next item is a new public hearing on tentative tract map number 62121. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this matter. Do we have speakers on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. May we hear them? No, before we hear them, let's hear our staff report, since we did not receive a uncontested letter.
Chairman Bowes, Commissioners, this is a request for a time extension for tentative tract map 62121. The applicant is Royal Investors Group. The location is 30 acres on the northwest corner of 40th Street West and Avenue K. This is a subdivision for 115 single-family lots in the R7000 zone. It's actually the R7000 zone and the commercial zone. This map was originally approved in 2006. The state extensions have carried it to 2015, and this is the first of 3 available time extension requests. Staff is recommending denial of the request based on the findings contained in the staff report. Specifically, it is due to the change of the general plan land use designation and zoning for 10 acres of the overall 30 acres of the project site. The 10 acres that has been redesignated to commercial is at the corner of 40th Street West and Avenue K. So if you can think of a kind of a square shaped at the corner of 40th and K, that is the area that's been redesignated and zoned to commercial. As a result, the tentative tract map is no longer in conformance with the general plan and zoning designations. Hence the recommendation for denial. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Cook, I went right past you, and I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask to recuse myself as I live very near there.
All right, thank you. All right, to be clear, the recommendation for denial is that the land use proposed is not in conformance with the general plan or zoning designation for the property.
Correct.
So if we did not agree with your recommendation and extended the map, then we would be violating our own ordinances, in effect?
Yes.
All right. Maybe I should ask the city attorney, put you on the spot. Same answer, right?
Absolutely.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, we have speakers.
One speaker with a card, Mr. Chairman, Jim Powers.
Jim Powers. Welcome back, Mr. Powers.
Thank you very much. Jim Powers with Royal Investors Group, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. We would like to request a 60-day continuance. The change from all residential and changing 10 acres on the corner was done by the city. It was not our request to change it to commercial. We've accepted this, and we have looked at it to see whether or not we could put that 10 acres in and still have the residential around it, which is what the general plan update calls for. We could shorten one of the loop roads, 2 of the loop roads, and still make it a loop road, but just make it shorter above the commercial and fit the 10 acres right on the corner. And we're more than happy to do that, but we would like to have the 60-day continuance so that we can draft up that drawing, and we know that this would require some additional conditions, and we haven't heard what those are, but we think that we would could very easily live with those conditions. Again, this wasn't our choice to change this. It happened when the city did the general plan update, And we would request that we have that 60 days so that we could draft out what that would look like, have our engineer do that, and then meet with the city to talk about what additional conditions would be added to this tentative track map.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions of the speaker?
So this is a discussion that's already taken place with city staff, that you wanted to go in for 60-day continuance?
We've talked about it briefly and talked with our engineer about drafting up the drawings, but we did talk with staff about the possibility of sitting down and taking a serious look at what that 10-acre piece would look like, the location of it, and what it would do to the traffic.
So my next question is over to staff. Is that a feasible amount of time in which to do that?
You know, the way staff has been approaching these time extensions, we felt that if it was a minor design change, that we could accommodate that and make some modifications to the conditions. If this came in, we believe this would be more than just a minor design change that may be beyond the scope of our extension process. So that's the way we're looking at this.
How would that conform to the MAP Act? Aren't we limited by state law as to potential redesigns of tentative track maps? Isn't there an expectation that they should be final, similar to the way they're designed in the first place?
Well, state law, the State Subdivision Map Act, in contrast to just about any other portion of it, is not very explicit in terms of what an extension is and what you can really do with it. It simply says local agency may, upon a request by a subdivider, extend the expiration date of a tentative map. But to kind of once again reiterate what Mr. Ng is saying, we look at it from a staff standpoint that when you do a map extension, you are essentially looking at whether to extend the existing map. And where there have been cases where, you know, there may be some changes that we would like to see or some circumstances that have altered somewhat, we've tried to accommodate those. But in this particular case, you're looking at 10 acres of a site, essentially a third of a site that was changed with a general plan and zoning designation. That was never considered in the original analysis of the map when it was reviewed. And really, when you look at this kind of situation, our belief as a staff is that the intent of an extension is not really to go back through that analysis that you do when you do a new tentative map review. I know just from my memory that when this map was done, there was concern on the part of the neighborhood to the west. Some of the design aspects of this map were done in response to concerns that particular neighborhood raised. And just from a city standpoint, we now have kind of a different way of looking at accessibility between residential and adjoining commercial and how those ought to be approached. As you may remember, there was a map that we did extend, but a requirement that a street be put through earlier on the east side, where you had an existing commercial site, and we looked at whether or not to extend that residential portion. So I really think that from our standpoint, the appropriate thing to do in this case would be to file a new tentative track map and go through the review with the outside agencies and the environmental process that you would normally go through, none of which you do in a map extension request. We would hold to our recommendation for denial and ask that you uphold that approach.
Thank you. Anything further from the members?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
From the environmental standpoint, a condition could be that we would take a look at an updated traffic study, possibly noise and air quality, but I know that when the city changed in their general plan and added the 10 acres of commercial, that was looked at that time. But again, we're open to updating any reports that we have done in the past to take an honest look at that. And also, Mr. Ludicky brought up that there was a tract, I think, to the west that was not in favor of this tentative tract map originally. I've also been told that there was a proposed project that included commercial on the south side of K, and that a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods were against having commercial out in that area at all.
Let me point out what really happens, give you a little history lesson. This commission took up a nearly 2-year process on general plan review and zone change, and our recommendation to the City Council was to leave it the way it currently looks as residential property. City Council on its own motion decided that they would need 10 acres of commercial in that location. So, depending on the outcome of how we view this and what vote we take, we may have other things to share with you. But you may recall last time you were here and we talked about negotiating conditions across the floor and how challenging that is for us. So, there may be someone else that will have something to say. No? All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
We have other speakers?
I have no other cards, Mr. Chairman, unless there's someone in the audience who wishes to speak.
I don't know. Lots of folks here. Anyone want to add anything to us? Nope. All right. Any further comments from staff or questions from members? All right. So without objection, we'll close the public hearing and consider a motion.
I move that we deny the request for a 1-year extension based on the findings contained in the staff report.
Second.
Thank you. All right, anything further? Please vote. So the opportunity on the Commission's action tonight for the applicant, they do have the opportunity to appeal the decision of the Commission to the City Council on the prescribed form for the prescribed fee in the prescribed time frame, whatever that may be. Commissioner Cook, ran away from home? You're back. Welcome back.
More than I thought you would say.
All right, next item is item 2E, tentative track map number 63786. I think. I'll go right past it. I did. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this tract map extension request. We have received a uncontested letter. Do we have any speakers?
Not on this item, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone care to hear the staff report again? All right, then. It's appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion.
I'll make the motion that we grant a 1-year extension to October 16, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised condition list. Attachment to resolution number 06-77.
Thank you. Have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. And the next,
Hold on. I was pushing my button, but it never took in the vote.
shall we do it again?
Did it show on the screen? It broke. Redo it.
Who broke it?
I did it.
So, vote again.
Please, vote again.
There we go. There we go. Try it again. Magic, look at that.
Okay.
Thank you. 2F, which is tentative tract map number 66408. So without objection, public hearing is open. Do you have any speaker cards on this, Mr. Lee?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Nope. All right. Anyone care to hear the staff report again? Nope. All right, then. Appropriate to close the public hearing without objection, consider a motion.
I move that we grant a one-year extension to October 19th, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list, attachment to resolution number 09-28.
Thank you. Have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right. The next item is item 3, which is a conditional use permit number 15-06. This is a public hearing, so the public hearing is open without objection. And we do have speakers on this?
The applicant has submitted a card, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. May we have a brief staff report, please?
Chairman, Commissioners, this is a request for a Type 41 on-sale beer and wine for a bona fide restaurant in conjunction with a 2,432 square foot restaurant named Okami Sushi Restaurant within a commercial shopping center in the CPD zone. This is located on the northwest corner of 20th Street West and Avenue K. We've included conditions typical for alcohol requests for bona fide restaurants, and we are recommending approval for this request. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. So standard, is this the first time we've imposed the standard conditions that this commission adopted recently?
The conditions reference resolution number 15-28, which is what we had approved last month. So yes, it references the new standard conditions.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of staff? No? So, shall we hear from the applicant? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As my name is Hauga Tundev, and we are applied this new restaurant in Lancaster area. That's my first the food service business. This.
Sounds very exciting.
Oh, yes, of course. This is the first time I'm here at this big meeting.
Don't be nervous. We've been here a lot of times.
Okay. Thank you, yeah. And we have Fusion. We will be serve public to Fusion sushi and friendly customer service and polite everything. And we have experienced it staff, and everything is ready to go. Yeah, that's the thing.
So you want us to say yes?
Yes.
Got it.
Anything, question, I've tried to answer.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. There
Thank
may
you.
be a question or two, I don't know.
I have one question. Will you have cold, unfiltered sake?
We have hot sake.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the
Cold, unfiltered sake.
unfiltered.
Well,
Yes, I have my chef. Man, he knows all the cook. Yeah.
well, there's one vote I think you can count on. Very good. Go ahead.
Sir, I'm sure you have a very interesting story on how you started your business with apparently your sons. And I'm very excited that you're going to that location. Looking forward to it. I'm kind of tired of going to Goldfish, so I'm looking forward to staying in my community. So.
Okay, thank you. He's the almost over the 10 years experience for sushi chef. I have two, my partners, my sons, and we have the staff is good. That's the I want.
All right,
Any
very
other
good. Thank
question?
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any further? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, any other speakers?
Not on this item, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. We'll close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion on the recommendation.
I move to adopt resolution number 15-30, approving conditional use permit number 15-06.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Good luck with your new business.
Of course.
How soon are you going to open? Very good.
Middle of December, we are planning.
You may see some people there that look familiar to you. Good luck. All right. Next item is conditional use permit number 15-07. Actually, we have two conditional use permits by the same applicant. The first one is 1507, so without objection, public hearing is open. Do you have speakers on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. May we have, and for the record, we have received uncontested letters on both number 4 and number 5. So may we have the staff report, please?
Chairman and Commissioners, on July 15, 2013, the Planning Commission approved conditional use permit number 1306. A portion of conditional use permit 1306 has already been constructed and is operational. A portion of the property that was originally under conditional use permit 1306, with some additional parcels immediately south, comprises the project site for conditional use permit number 1507. The proposed project consists of approximately 51 acres, generally bounded by Avenue J, 105th Street West, 100th Street West, and future Avenue J6. The proposed project would operate year-round and produce a total of 5 megawatts of renewable electric power during daytime hours. Battery storage would be placed next to the inverters scattered throughout the project site. The project would tie into one of 2 collector substations located immediately to the west of the project site or just east of the project site along Avenue J, which would feed the electricity to the Antelope substation located at approximately 95th Street West and Avenue J via a Gentile line. The Gentile line would be located either on the project site or within the city's right-of-way along Avenue J. A chain-link fence would surround the project site, and a 10-foot landscaped area would be provided between the fence and the property line to screen the development from the surrounding uses as shown on the site plan. Access to the project site would be provided via a gate on 105th Street West. The applicant has already dedicated Avenue J along the project frontage at 50 feet from center line. Irrevocable offers of dedication would be provided for 103rd Street West, 104th Street West, 105th Street West, Avenue J3, Avenue J6. Facilities associated with the master plan of drainage are proposed to run through portions of the project site. One facility would run through the project site along Avenue J4 and connect to a second facility around 103rd Street West. The second facility runs through the northeast and southeast portions of the project site in a southwest to northeast direction. Both of these facilities are earthen channels that are proposed to be 50 feet wide and 7 feet deep. The applicant will provide irrevocable offers of dedication for both of these future facilities. The proposed project would generate environmental impacts during construction with respect to biological resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, and noise. The construction of the proposed project has the potential to impact burrowing owls, Swainson's hawk, coast horned lizards, silvery legless lizards, and drainage during construction activities. The project also has the potential to generate dust, and there is at least one water well located on the project site and possibly more. If the water wells are not proposed to be utilized during construction and operation of the proposed project, the applicant will abandon those wells in accordance with all applicable rules and regulations. Construction of the proposed project would also generate noise. There's approximately 10 mitigation measures which would limit the amount of noise generated which is audible off the project site. Today you received copies of 3 letters. The first one was from the Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District, basically reiterating the requirements of Rule 403, which is the dust control measure, and they kind of specify some of the greater details, which requires minimal amounts of grading, applying soil binders, maintaining vegetation at a certain height, and having a construction manager on the property who can address any concerns of nearby residences or city inspectors, anybody who may have issues, and can resolve the situation within a given period of time. You also have a letter from the California Regional Water Quality Control Board, which basically, lays out the requirements for stormwater control, impacts to drainages, requirements for waste discharge reports. Those are all standard requirements, and they're not technically mitigation, but mitigation was identified to ensure that those things happened. You also have a letter from the California Department of Fish and Game, and they attached their agency comments from when the projects were initially submitted, and those cover basically 4 areas. Their first concern was that the biological surveys for the project site were reconnaissance level, and that's the requirement that we have for all projects, is that they submit a reconnaissance level biological survey with their application so that we know what could possibly occur on the site. There are requirements for more detailed pre-construction surveys as part of their initial study and mitigation monitoring plan, specifically with burrowing owls, Swainson's hawk, coast horned lizards, and silvery legless lizards. We also have a requirement as part of their project to do springtime surveys for sensitive plant species, and if those are identified during the surveys, there's mitigation measures which would address impacts to said species. Their second issue pertains to burrowing owl and acknowledges that while we have a 30-day pre-construction period, there are 2 artificial burrows that were identified in the biological report. Those 2 burrows are not on the project site. They were created as mitigation from an Edison project. They are located within the Edison easement, and the proposed project will not be impacting them. With respect to raptor foraging habitat, there is a possibility that Swainson's hawks and other raptors do use the project site. There was requirements for pre-construction surveys with those, and if Swainson's hawks are identified utilizing the area, the applicant is required to purchase conservation property at a 0.25 to 1 ratio, similar to the requirements that we approved with Del Sur Ranch. And their last one dealt with decommissioning, and they're requesting a decommissioning plan and financial sureties that the decommissioning would take place. You have already required a measure, and it is included as part of this project, requiring the applicant to remove everything from the project site within 180 days of ceasing operations, and so therefore this issue is addressed. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Members, any questions from anyone? Vice Chair Hall?
The one closest to my heart was the decommissioning. It says funding assurances. That isn't in ours, is it?
It says what?
Funding mitigation. The department recommends decommissioning plan is implemented as an enforceable mitigation measure with funding assurances. Is that our decommissioning plan doesn't have that, does it?
No, we don't have, but it would be really difficult to establish funding assurances for a project that we don't know what the requirements are going to be 30 years in the future. And I don't believe the city wants to hold for 30 years the funds that are the financial surety for that.
So do you think California Department of Fish and Wildlife is, what are they thinking when they make a statement like that?
Sorry.
I honestly don't know what they're thinking. Technically, under CEQA, they are only allowed to comment on those issues over which they have jurisdiction, and requiring financial sureties is not one of them. That would be something that this commission can take up if they so choose. I don't recommend it because I don't think it's a really feasible way of dealing with it, but that's at your discretion.
On the biological surveys, it says that special status plant survey be conducted to determine the presence or absence of species, and if found present, a $2,400 fee per acre shall be assessed to fund the acquisition. Is that anything in what we requested, or is that just what they asked for?
No, it's a mitigation measure as part of the initial study. Many years ago, when we had an issue with alkali Mariposa lilies, we established a dollar amount based on some land comps as to what habitat would cost to acquire for, at the time it was the lilies, and we use that dollar amount when special plant species are identified. We collect that from the developer, and we put it in our biological impact fee account, and then we turn around and use it to acquire property that has those species on it.
Who finds the species that would make that happen?
The biologist, when they do their springtime survey, goes out and looks for a list of special status plants that are known to occur in the Antelope Valley as a whole. There's a list that the California Natural Resources Database maintains, and so there's a known list of special status plant species.
Thank you.
Oops, I should have turned on my microphone. Oh, well. Did you hear that? You did? Okay. I never know if anybody can hear what I'm saying, or even cares what I'm saying, for that matter. You still have a mind to recommend the project the way it's proposed with the mitigations that you've identified?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. We have speakers. The applicant, I'm assuming, Mr. Bean. Welcome back. You always sit in the same chair, Mr. Bean?
Yes, he does.
Actually, I was over on this side last time for City Council. That's the planning commission. This is. Thank you. Good evening. We're here again. We have another project here. This one actually probably looks very familiar to you. As you can recognize, this was permitted as a prior project. However, we were able to obtain a couple parcels around the perimeter that we were able to add into this project. And the main difference between the previous project and this one is really that we have the battery storage option that's located adjacent to the inverters, so that we can help out the utility by providing power when they request it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Maybe.
How big are the batteries, and are you buying those big Tesla batteries that they're making, or?
No, it's not the Tesla batteries, actually. We're looking at a couple different vendors, one of them being BYD that's in the area. So the batteries are usually right adjacent to the inverters, almost approximately the same size, similar to storage container size. You will be putting those next to the inverters at around the same capacity of the inverter, so it's around 1.5 megawatts.
It'll store approximately 1.5 megawatts, which should last for, you have any idea if it gets fed into the grid?
Well, we can discharge at a given rate, so it depends on when the utility actually needs it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, ma'am? All right, thank you. Have any other speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tracy Hill.
Tracy what? Milt?
Hill.
Hill, oh, I beg your pardon. Ms. Hill, welcome.
Thank you.
Take your time, don't have to be nervous.
I'm very nervous, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission.
Just pretend we're in our underwear, and then you don't have to be nervous.
My husband and I own property in the neighboring area, and we are both very opposed to additional solar fields being built in the area. We're opposed to it for several reasons, not only this item here, number 4, but we're also opposed to item number 5 that's listed on the agenda today. And our opposition comes from the decrease in property value. We, as I said, we own property out there, and we had intentions of building residents out there to possibly retire in, but given the view of the area, that will most likely not happen. There is going to be an immense amount of dust that is kicked up from having the solar panels out there, and not to mention the view is completely ruined. Sorry to be so frank, but that's pretty much how it is. So I just wanted to be sure and have it on record that we are opposing.
Where exactly is your property in relationship to this project? Is it on the map, or is it?
It's on the map. It's K2. It's roughly K2 and 101st.
Say again, please.
K2 and 101st.
Okay.
So it's up on the hill and looks down on
Right.
on that. And what will be that, and then item number 5 is even a larger amount of solar field that will be, 500 and some acres or what have you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other speakers, Mr. Ludico?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bean, you care to rebut?
I would just say that we are doing our best to minimize the impacts in the area. If you do have some questions for us, we'd be happy to address them. Whether it's mitigating dust out at the site, we have several measures that are in place. If it's aesthetics, we are trying to screen the surrounding portions of the property with vegetation. I understand that we can't screen it all and that there is still an impact there, but we are trying to address it as best as possible. So we'd be happy to work with you and anyone else in the community to deal with some of these impacts.
All right, thank you. Anything further from staff? Members? No other cards? No. All right, thank you. So it's appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-31, approving conditional use permit number 15-07.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anything further from anyone? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. The next action item on our agenda is, and last action item is, conditional use permit number 1509. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this. The applicant is the same. SunPower. So we have speakers on this. Ms. Hill, again?
She did not list that on her card, although she did allude to it. And
We're happy to hear you again if you have anything more to offer, Ms. Hill.
I'm not sure one lead person can offer it at this time. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. Okay, so we have an uncontested letter on this. Mr. Bean, do you have a compelling reason to speak to us? No? All right, thank you. So then, no speakers and no staff report. We've heard the staff report and our staff briefing. What's your pleasure, folks? Close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-32, approving conditional use permit number 15-09.
I second.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, that concludes the action items on our agenda tonight. Director's announcements, Mr. Ludicky.
No real announcements, Mr. Chairman. We do have an item listed under your commission agenda for discussion, however.
All right, very good. We, last meeting we adjusted our January and February meeting schedule due to federal holidays. This December, however, our third meeting would fall really during Christmas week vacation for a whole lot of city staff and some of us, no doubt. So it was been suggested that we move our regular study session to December 7th and our meeting day to December 14th. That was the suggestion. It moves everything a week sooner. That way folks will have an opportunity to take off whatever time they want to take off, and city staff won't be burdened with preparing agendas and sitting here for 2-3 hours while we deliberate. So, is any objection to that from anyone? That work for everybody? You're not going to Texas that week? So, do we need a motion? Yes. You do. All right. So the motion would be that our December meeting schedule be changed to the staff study session on December 7th and our regular meeting at December 12th. That would be the motion.
So moved.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, December 14th.
Did I say 14th?
For the regular meeting. Yes.
What did I say?
You said 12.
That's Saturday.
Yes, it is. You'll be alone.
December 14th. Also can't read. Go ahead.
So moved with the correction.
All right, thanks.
Can we do that, or?
All right, thank you guys for keeping me on the straight and narrow.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, let's vote.
Motion passes 6-0, so we will move the meetings.
All right, thank you. So next item is public business from the floor on non-agendized item. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the commission on any subject regarding city business. Under state legislation, no action can be taken on non-agenda items. Members of the public should be aware of this when addressing the commission regarding items not specifically referred to on the agenda. Please complete a speaker's card for the recording secretary. Individuals would be allowed 3 minutes each. Do we have any public business from the floor speakers?
I have no speaker's cards, Mr. Chairman.
All right. There are 4 members of the public in the audience. Anyone care to address us tonight on any subject you want to talk about? No? All right, then. Anything further from the members?
I'd like to bring up the extensions on the tentative track maps. I realize that according to municipal code, which Brian sent to me today, that we're only allowed 1-year extensions, but I was doing some reading on, there's an AB 116, 116, and it talks about there's a possibility that we could have a 24-month extension. And on some of these projects, I think it would probably save paperwork and time if we could have the latitude to be able to change that. And I've asked Ms. Corbett if she would look into the possibility of seeing if that's possible according to state law. And if it is, then as a commission, we could then make a recommendation to City Council that Section 1608-14 subsection A be modified to say that we could change the...
Assuming you got enough votes.
If we had enough votes, yes.
Yeah. Well, what would you like us to do? Agendize the subject for discussion next time?
I'm going to have to wait until Ms. Corbett tells us whether or not it's legal and not, and she said that she would need weeks, and so... Weeks?
We can place it on the agenda. I'll do my research and confer with Mr. Ludicky, and then we can be in touch with you, and you can decide whether you'd like to keep it on the agenda or remove it.
Well, if it isn't legal with the state, there's no reason to waste the time putting it on the agenda.
So we'll make sure that Mr. Ludicky and I confer in enough time to give you notice so you can make the decision whether you want to proceed with the discussion or take it off altogether.
Whose decision would that be? All of ours?
Well, it's on the agenda, yeah.
We'll have Ms. Reyes send email out to you, and each of you can individually reply to her directly without copying one another, and then we can let you know if it's been removed from the agenda at that point.
Thank you.
All right, very good. That work?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything further? You were, I went right past this, Mr. Ludicky. You were going to briefly talk about, is it AB 1303? Which we've touched on and is highlighted in our previous action items on track map extensions, right? Was it AB 1303?
Yeah, I think the most recent state action on, for lack of a better term, automatic extensions. The state legislature did in fact pass, and the governor did sign a bill towards the end of the legislative session, which did grant automatic extensions to currently valid tentative maps. But those extensions are only valid in counties that meet certain criteria that were laid out in that legislation. And that criteria dealt with issues such as relative median income of the county or mean income of the county to the statewide average, unemployment rate, and so forth. And the language of the legislation essentially said that a county had to meet all of these criteria. I did go and do some research comparing Los Angeles County's income level to that of the state using the resource documents that the legislation required. Los Angeles County doesn't qualify under that. So any of the maps that are within the Los Angeles County jurisdiction do not benefit from that automatic extension. So that's the reason that you continue to see these maps in front of you for extension action, because that map extension legislation does not apply in our city or in the county of Los Angeles, from what we can tell.
From my readings today on the website and before, they were talking about wide latitude given to local legislative bodies, which is not us, it would be the city council. But I asked Marv Christ if he would be interested in proposing this at city council, and he said that he was, to change that, because it would be able to reduce the amount of paperwork that would have to be done and stuff like that. As well as save the developers some money. I mean, it can't be cheap to send all those people up here on a day like that. So
It's called the development process. You get to pay for the work. You know, I disagree with you. And I had a discussion with city council members at the city council meeting last week about use by right as opposed to conditional use permit oversight. And, you know, frankly, if you take all of the oversight of this body, you don't need us. So if you give people use by right, long-term extensions without oversight, what's the purpose of it?
Well, the original CUP is given for 2 years, and then we're offered 3 one-year extensions, so we do have oversight.
And that's the same with track maps, Randy.
I'm just
thinking it's the same standard.
I'm just thinking that instead of having it 1 year on the second one, we could grant to 24 months. And according to the AB 116.
So between the 1 year and 24 months later, if we adopt development standards that are different than were imposed on the first extension or the original map, we would in effect ignore those proposed standards and allow the project to proceed that may not be in the best interest of the community without oversight. That's my concern. And that's, to me, our charge is oversight. If our decisions are not acceptable to the applicant, they have the opportunity to appeal the decision, and then the city council can take whatever action they choose to take. Or on their own motion, they can change the municipal ordinance. I mean, we can sure talk about it, but, you know, you're going to have to be a pretty compelling argument to convince me that we should not spend our time on oversight. I think that's what we're here for.
Mr. Chairman, a lot of these maps we've been extending appeared to be originated back in 05, 06.
Right.
So,
they'd be dead by now.
correct. So,
An 05 map would be dead in 2011. 4 or 5 years past. We wouldn't even be looking at them. Right?
Well, my concern is it doesn't look like economic conditions are going to improve in the next year as much as we would like them to get these projects out of the ground. And offering them more time would save them money, which might allow them to get it out of the ground in 24 months. Also, oversight's one thing, but micromanaging is another. We can say that we're making conditions, but we denied one tonight, and the only reason we denied it was just because it violated the general plan amendment, which only comes up not very often, and that was the only reason why we did it. Other oversight, too, has to do with design guidelines, which we wrote several years ago, and
which are not imposed on these maps. On these 2005 and 2006 and 2007.
But I'm not.
All that work that you and Ms. Cook did on the design guidelines that the City Council agreed with and this commission imposes, we don't get the chance to do that.
No,
Gentlemen,
we get the chance.
I beg your pardon, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think that this is a discussion that is going to be extremely valuable when we take it up at the next regular meeting.
Disagree.
Agenda
we can
item.
have whatever discussion we want there's no motion, there's nothing on the agenda, we can talk about whatever we want.
There is some concern about the deliberative process going on. With all due respect, I will defer to you, of course, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
I disagree. So, if you want the item on the agenda I'd suggest that we put it on the agenda. Notwithstanding what the city attorney, assistant city attorney's remarks will be and what her recommendations might be, I still think we ought to put it on the agenda so we can flush it out, if and when the time comes. And we have a full body.
That's agreed.
Raj abandoned us.
I don't know if that's a promotion. That's a
I'm
rough
not
way
sure,
to go.
I'm not sure if that's a promotion. That's for sure. So, anyway, so if nobody objects, we can line item that item. Anything else you guys want to look at in the future? Nope? All right. So we stand adjourned then to our special meeting for agenda review Monday, November 9th, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. in the Parks, Recreation, Arts Conference Room, City Hall. Thank you all for your work. Appreciate it.